This is the Team Objection podcast for December 6th, 2018, episode 370, I think. I don't have the planner in front of me. I'm just winging it. I think it's 370, though. I'm pretty confident. I'm not even going to look it up. We're just going to let it rock.
Whatever it
You're
is,
always
it's going to be a
right.
great show. Stay tuned, everybody. We have yet another iteration.
I just remember that last week we had a 69 joke, so I think you're right.
To be fair, that was going to be my barometer, is like, did we make a 69 joke last week? If we did, then it's probably 370.
Yeah.
And thank you for confirming, Michelle.
We did. Well, it was more of a, we're not going to make a 69 joke, but I kind of already said nice, and then that was kind of the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did.
Which is all the attention it deserves.
Exciting episode of Hall of Fame. Got to
Coming
finish it since I was so rudely interrupted. I just said what a positive energy we were going to bring. He immediately interrupted me.
Yeah, I mean, that seems about right.
That's positive to me.
Just going to go home.
You are home. Nice.
I know this is an audio podcast, I know, but is your cat going to die?
What do you mean?
She's up there on the mantle of the fireplace.
Yeah, that's going to be problematic later. We'll see.
All right.
Will she fall into the fire?
The smoking gun.
The YouTube viewers can enjoy that and just the imminent destruction of Michelle's house. The audio ones, you'll probably still hear it, so don't worry about it.
I
So
hate your cat.
I do too. If I see a flaming cat run across the screen, like, that would be kind of cool.
No,
I'm just gonna say
I don't want your cat to die, but I do like cats that are overly curious. I've always hated.
She's not. I mean, that's.
Look at her. She's on the. What is she doing? There she goes. She's
All right, we'll
dead.
see.
She's done.
All right.
She had a good vantage point from up there. She
For
wanted to
what?
see everything.
She's not a hunter.
She needs to have full access to the room. Any room that I'm in, she needs to be scoping out at all times. She's like a CIA agent or whatever.
That's dumb. I hate her.
Or whatever.
She controls you. That's basically what I heard there.
I mean, no, that's pretty true. But also, I kind of control her because she's a tiny little creature.
I like chill cats. Cat just gonna come up, cuddle with me when I'm playing XCOM, and then that's it. Purrs a little bit.
Feely
That's what
does
I
that. She's pretty mellow. I mean, she likes to sit with me when I'm recording the show, but she just sits or like walks around on the table. She's not destructive or awful. Sometimes she's awful, but all cats are sometimes awful.
I would see her pull out all of your DVDs.
Yeah.
This episode.
She doesn't
Just
do
knock
that.
him out.
Garbage.
She doesn't
Garbage.
destroy stuff. She's actually really pretty good about that. She doesn't really scratch things or anything like that. She's a good girl.
And
I'd appreciate if she threw out all your Nicolas Cage movies, but then like kept good ones.
I mean, I would love for her to do that. I don't think I have any Nicolas Cage movies.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. I
makes
think
sense.
I have Matchstick Men.
Why?
I don't know. When I worked at Barnes & Noble in Arizona, like this dude would stop by and like give me DVDs. And one day he just like brought me like 13 or 14 DVDs and I was like, I don't want any of these.
So this happened more than once. He was just the DVD guy.
Yeah, because I worked in the DVD and music department, and so he assumed that I was like super passionate about movies, which I like movies a lot, so that was a fair assumption. But he basically just gave me the movies he didn't want, and then I in turn would just take them to Bookman's and get credit.
Okay.
That was fine, but nobody wanted Matchstick Men, so
Except you.
yeah.
I've never even heard of this movie.
I've heard of nothing good.
Let's look at Matchstick.
I've heard of the name. I have no idea what it's about.
It's not terrible. I mean, it's not good either. I think Nicolas Cage is in it. I don't know.
Sean is being research guy.
I'm looking it up.
What is a good
the first
Nicolas
first
Cage
result
movie?
was Stick
Con
Math.
Air.
Stick Math Man.
Con Air. Yeah, that's
Matchstick Man. Stick Math.
Stick
Matchstick Men. I'm on like CenturyLink search. I'm not even on Google. What the fuck?
What have you
That's
done?
the only search it deserves.
Yeah, that's true too. We have the bootleg search engine for this one.
We got some Bing going on over here.
All I want to do is
Gross.
find like a synopsis. Roy.
It's not good.
Nicolas Cage. A depressed con artist with obsessive compulsive disorder. Oh, there you go. And Frank, who's Sam Rockwell, who's a good actor.
Very good.
His partner find their line of work complicated by the arrival of Roy's teenage daughter. Oh, isn't that always a problem? Angela. Allison Lohman. Oh, she's someone.
Well, it's nice to know their careers didn't get submarined by this.
Angela brings some
Yeah.
spirit back into Roy's life, and some of his disorder symptoms seem to disappear.
And some wacky adventures.
Whoa!
It actually, yeah, he talks about parenting techniques at the end.
Thought
Yeah.
so.
Matchstick Men.
Not missing out.
That's the movie. I own it. I don't know why.
Creepy guy, that's why.
Yeah, I tried to get rid of it to my credit, but it's still here. I hold that thing all the way from Arizona to Portland. I don't know why.
You paid some amount of dollars, or probably just cents, in gas, but the added weight
Yeah.
that put in your car making the trip.
And I know. DVDs, well, they're lighter now because there's like nothing in them anymore. It's just
Yeah.
like you open it and it's just like air. But still, I mean, it adds up.
Just
Hey.
like chips.
Hey, y'all, guess what? Matchstick Men, 82% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, well.
Not bad.
That
Yeah,
is
you
pretty
should-
excellent,
Movie.
in fact.
You should watch it, Michelle.
I've seen it.
We should do... Why did I read a synopsis if you watched it?
I don't know because I thought you wanted to know what it was about.
Yeah, I did. You could have told me, though.
Oh, it's been years. I didn't remember what it was about. I remember there was a teenage girl and there was a con man, and that was all I knew.
That would have been enough. That would have
That
been
was
enough.
the synopsis.
She just wanted to trick you into mansplaining Matchstick Men.
We should watch
Yeah.
it on a live stream and comment so our video gets taken
okay,
down.
Here's a podcast idea, or well, it'll be like a video cast idea. All Nicolas Cage movies,
Okay.
commentary, and we watch them all in chronological order.
I don't
dear
have a
Lord.
Nicolas Cage voice, but I'm confident after our marathon that I will. I don't know
My
what it
Nicolas
would
Cage,
be.
My
Do
Nicolas
it,
Cage
Dave.
voice might just sound too much like Keanu Reeves, though. Like, because the problem is in my head, I kind of have a whoa type of thing. But
Yeah, it's
It's not
kind of,
really-
kind of it when he's being normal.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's like not surfer. Like it doesn't go
Well,
surfer.
yeah. So
That's
what are we
the
going to do?
difference.
We're going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
It's too formal. That was like if
I-
he's British.
I told you, I don't have a
Hello, Governor. We're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
And I don't mean to be
That
critical,
makes
Dave.
sense.
It was just, yours kind of sounded like a subdued snagglepuss.
My name is Nicolas Cage.
Sorry, Chris.
Let's steal the Declaration of Independence, Stephen.
Get on with it.
Speaking of snagglepuss.
No.
That doesn't say what doesn't work for what we're about to do.
Snagglepuss, Hall of Fame.
When we
Yes or
get to
no?
the point where that's the next candidate, I think we should just shut the whole segment down.
Close the
Yeah.
laptop. Close the mics. We're done.
How about those 1960s cartoons? No, we're not open for those. Those are not getting in. Sorry.
Maybe
Anyways.
Flintstones. Maybe.
Hall of Fame is back. Recent listeners of the show know what's up with that. It's our newest segment and quickly becoming our most popular, at the very least with the four of us. Probably with you too. I assume it's good. People have said it was good.
love it.
I don't know.
Well, people like wrote in and gave us suggestions, so I feel like that was a pretty good indication that other people like it too.
Suggestions that we have ignored for this time, but we will come back to them eventually.
used one.
Thousands of fans.
We
have
used the
sent
one the
in
first week.
Suggestions.
Yes. But we will take more suggestions if you have people you want to see. And again, it doesn't have to be high quality character people. It can be negative ones too. There's a hall for everyone, but we're trying to get people in the Hall of Fame primarily. That's the goal. Why would we spend all of our time talking about shitlords?
First up this
They're
week,
fun.
Nicolas Cage.
I know. 4. I didn't like Encino Man.
That sounded very Casey Kasem of you, Sean. Next up on this week's Top 25.
Nicolas Cage wasn't in Encino Man. That was Brendan Fraser.
They're the same
It
person
was.
to me. We'll have a discussion about this sometime.
To be fair, that's a good point, Chris. That's a
I'm
great
just
point.
saying, when you actually start to break this down, they're more similar than you think or hope. But
I
that's for
actually
another
do want
time.
to break it down later. Another time, yes.
Yes.
I am
Like-
intrigued.
I feel like in another universe, Nicolas Cage was in The Mummy, and this is weirding me out right now.
Yeah, I
don't
can see
like
that
this.
for sure.
I don't like this. I hate
Yeah,
this.
I've just given you something to think about for the rest of your life.
Same mummy twice,
Oh, God.
according to Dave.
Right. Crikey. Fictional candidate first or real candidate first?
Real candidate.
All
Let's
right.
start off bad.
Okay. It might not be. We don't know for
Take your
sure.
hand, jeez.
So we thought perhaps with the recently beloved sequel to a Harry Potter spin-off movie just percolating in theaters right now, getting buried by every other meaningful release of November.
Absolute critical story that everyone wanted told.
Huge darling. We thought maybe it would be a relevant time, before there are no relevant times left, to discuss Johnny Depp.
Here's how this conversation started pre-show, folks. He said, Sean goes, we might as well do Johnny Depp because of the Harry Potter thing. And I said, the what? The Harry Potter thing? So that's a good start for him, right? Yeah.
Well, Dave, you don't know any movies anyway. So that's nothing new. That's not Johnny Depp's fault.
I mean, I knew there was a Harry Potter movie. I didn't know Johnny Depp was in it.
He is. So here's what's weird. Let me just break it down for you really quick. End of the first one, which has anyone here seen it?
Yes.
Nope.
Okay. Colin Farrell is the villain. And as good as that villain can possibly be, Colin Farrell is it. He's a good actor. He brings a certain menace presence to the role. And then it's revealed, just kidding. It's not this super A-list actor who's really relevant right now. It's actually Johnny Depp.
I hate it.
And you're like, why? If you had a nobody who turned out to be a somebody, sure. This was a huge somebody right now, and it turned out to be Johnny Depp, who I think we will explore, but is probably on the downside of his career.
Probably.
Oh, very much so.
It was very strange.
That shit's almost dead in the water now.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue here. We've talked before about how like maybe somebody had a downtime or a quieter time in their career, but their peak was so hot that it was enough to salvage it. His peak might be too long and not bright enough ago to salvage what's become of his career since pretty much 2010, although you could argue even before that.
Well, I want to argue that the peak was pretty good. So
There was a time. I'm gonna argue that with you, Sean, because there was a time around for me watching, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Even though it got blasted in the media, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movies, and we're seeing Johnny Depp in a movie was like, holy shit, that's the same guy? Like, it was almost unbelievable to me, the range of characters that he played and the way they did his makeup and just made him look like a brand new person. I was like, early 2000s, mid 2000s, like, wow, this is one of the better actors I've ever seen. I was blown away by him in that time.
yeah, and Finding Neverland, let's not forget. So to Dave's credit, roles that he completely disappears in. And then also a movie where he's just a guy, and it's phenomenal, and he does great.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought Sweeney Todd was okay.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd was great.
If not good. Probably good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people really like Sweeney Todd.
That's about my cutoff. That's 2007. Yeah. Everything since then, including 2 more Pirates movies, including Alice in Wonderland, which is an unmitigated disaster, including The Lone Ranger, which is an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah. And then he was in like not Source Code. That was Jake Gyllenhaal. He was in some weird Overlord, some tech movie with Morgan Freeman that completely bombed.
He was in Dark Shadows too.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Shadows was another one.
Oh, The Lone Ranger, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that was a bad choice.
That
might have been the
worst.
nail in the coffin. That really might have been the nail in the coffin for him.
I don't know about nail in the coffin because he keeps putting more nails into it, but I do think that was the extreme start of the downfall where people went...
It's being dropped into the ground and people are just throwing nails at it.
The reason that one hurts the most to me is because that's like the complete corruption of the, oh, look, Johnny Depp plays wacky characters that he can kind of lose himself into, because now you're like, this is not a character I want him to be in, and it's kind of racist that he is.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Among other things, and a lot of people, the shtick with Captain Jack was, I think it was strong. You could say a lot of people like the first one and it was all downhill. I thought it was still good in the second one. And then the third one was like, okay, I'm a little getting tired. And then the fourth one was just, I was pretty done. I no longer found it amusing. And I'm one of the people who will be like, oh, it's okay. If something's good, I don't mind going back to the well.
Let me just drop this on you for consideration because I did not know this before today. Dead Man's Chest, 2006. At World's End, the next year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I want to say they filmed them together. It was kind of a Revolutions Reloaded Matrix thing going on. I'm almost positive they filmed which they'll do. But
yeah, and you might be right about that, but still, that is too much.
But then they filmed 2 more movies after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sure did.
Oh boy, yeah, and it was just like I haven't even seen all of the newer Pirates movies, but like I've seen some clips, and it was just the most phoned in. Like everyone's like literally like holding paychecks in their hands, like they might as well be because it's that bad, and him included. And by then it's like it's old, like it's so old and overdone, and like it was really like I loved the first Pirates movie when it came out. I thought it was like inventive and fun and cool, and entertaining, had great music. And then they just ran it into the ground, and unfortunately, like, yeah, that was, to me, it's like after like the second one, it kind of overstayed its welcome.
Well, and so now he's in the Harry Potter movie, and this is why you pick your roles carefully, and you try to do a good job, because he had a string of bad films, and then he comes on a film where I don't think he does a bad job. I would say at best he does good, and at worst he's fine. But he's fine. Like he does all right with the villain that he's given. The movie is you guys.
Yeah.
It is a disaster. It is an incohesive mess. The whole movie, I turned to Maisie and I'm like, I've been wanting to scream like, what the hell is going on this entire... I had no clue what was happening. I've watched 9 Harry Potter movies. I could not tell. They're like, well, he's escaping, but now these characters look like they're going to do something, and then it just cuts away from them. Oh my God. They didn't know what story to tell, so they told 10 different ones, all of them unsuccessfully. And
which is so it's silly because they just have money in the bag for these.
Yeah, I know.
They could tell each one as slowly as they need to.
Well, don't worry.
But they chose not to.
The best of both worlds, because there's 3 more movies after this one.
Yeah.
Of this bore fest.
Don't know if that's going to be true or not, but it's planned, yes.
It's successful, though, financially still.
I don't know, though. It's not successful relative to its budget.
Well, no, it is, but it's because the rest of the world is stupid.
Oh, the worldwide numbers are that high? I see.
It did not do well in China or the U.S., and it killed everywhere else.
Huh.
So you're like, great. But anyways, Johnny Depp is in a movie where even though he does a good job, it's still his reputation as box office poison now.
Yeah.
There is some number, I wish I had it in front of me, where he is one of the top actors for inverse of
Flops.
his salary to flop.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and I think on top of him choosing movies that are not good, he also has like the personal history stuff coming in that people, I think it's been impossible to ignore. The weird stuff with like his like ex-girlfriend, and then like Amber Heard, who accused him of sexual it was domestic violence. And then they got like separated and then divorced, and it was a whole thing. And I remember he I thought he actually was. This is interesting, Sean. I haven't seen this second Fantastic Beasts movie. I thought he was removed from the role.
No.
That's interesting.
Now, if what they've said is like they've removed him, but it was already done filming, so in the next movie it'll be different. That could be, but
I don't think so. I thought when I was like reading stuff about the first one, they were like, oh yeah, like they like revoked the offer for the next movie, but he's in it apparently, so I guess that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of been a little bit blackballed in Hollywood, honestly, in light of the Me Too movement, stuff like that. Like he was kind of on like the cusp of that. And then once it kind of came to light, it was just kind of like, you're already box office poison. And now like your personal life is shambles and a nightmare. So like, we don't want you in our movies. Get out.
Yeah. Well,
what I find interesting about his filmography as I look through it, you look back in the 90s, there's a reason he was as popular as he was.
Yes.
I mean, there's some big
Edward
titles on there.
Scissorhands.
Edward
Grape.
Scissorhands, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
oh,
Yep.
yeah.
The Gilbert Grape, Sleepy Hollow was one that actually wasn't bad in the late 90s.
Yep.
There's some really big names that he was in.
Well,
back
and
then.
even some not big names, but like that people have really come to love over the years. Like Ed Wood is one of those, and what was the other one? I think Benny and June. People just love that movie. There's one more that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Don Juan DeMarco, probably.
Dead Man.
Yes.
Was he in From Hell?
No.
Yes.
It's Johnny Depp from Hell. He's not going in the Hall of Fame if that's the case.
2001.
From Hell, the Jack the Ripper
really?
movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Boom.
Okay.
Don't test
That's
me.
right.
And he's in the original 21 Jump Street, and then he makes a, I guess, okay cameo in the reboot.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yep.
So
That's pretty good.
That's what was crazy. It's like his filmography from 1986 to 2006 was just wow. This is amazing.
Pretty solid. Yeah.
Which of course led to the fact of his exorbitant salaries in movies that are coming out because he was such a big name star. But it's amazing how that quality has just dropped in the last 10 years, and how just the whole, I guess that seems to have happened to a lot of big stars in the 80s and 90s. How it's just kind of like, yeah, you were really popular and you're just falling off now. And I don't know the exact cause of that, but it's crazy how that is happening.
Well, and I do want to give him credit. I don't think it is his only one by any means, but he did get an Oscar nomination for Jack Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever that's worth. I want to actually
Did
look
he?
up.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't win, but he was nominated.
Wow.
Only the first one.
Which is fair, because the first one, I think it was kind of a cool character.
Oh, I think so too. I really like that first movie.
It is interesting, though, because we've had some people who have peaked and maybe had, like, obscure years and then, like, downward years after their peak. When you look at his filmography on Wikipedia, it's basically 2 columns where he's good and 2 columns where he's terrible.
Yeah.
In that order. And there's not all winners on the left-hand side. Not everything's terrible on the right, but still, in general, that's pretty much completely true. Like, there's a chocolat in the what's supposed to be the good side. But still, like, he has an impressive career. It's just how much of that has been just ruined by the last 12 years.
I am shocked he was nominated for Sweeney Todd.
Oh, God.
Finding Neverland, which he absolutely deserved.
That one's fine.
And that might be it.
Yeah.
So I have a theory, and I wonder how people take this. How much of his weirdness in the last 10 years can be attributed to him just getting older and not being able to handle it? He's always been playing these kind of like younger characters, someone who's always been in the spotlight. Now he's 45 now, 55 now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he handled it well getting old at all.
Well, he's a known heavy drinker.
Mm-hmm.
He once disputed an article that said he bought $30,000 worth of wine per month by saying that was way too low.
Solid.
There is all the stuff that Michelle mentioned before with some of his relationships and some weirdness that happened there, some abuse. There was the whole dog controversy in Australia or New Zealand, whatever that was. So I think that's a lot. It's that weird cocktail of both being in a series of bad roles and having bad personal life stuff crop up, where it's like, I don't even know if people have, like, what would a millennial think, like a younger millennial, because we're all in that group, but like, what does a 20-year-old think of Johnny Depp? Especially if they haven't seen the continuing Pirates movies. What does a 20-year-old think of Johnny Depp?
Not much.
He's that guy that can't. To me, I would think they see him as the guy who tries to dress all trendy and kind of weird when he's out in public. Yeah, washed up. Yeah, it's a great word for it.
If they even know about him much anymore, it's washed up.
True.
Yep.
And he used to be like, he was like gold. He was box office gold, man.
Probably one of the 5 biggest stars in Hollywood at his apex.
I would agree.
And now, would he be in the top 100? No.
Mm-mm. He was in a movie about Nick of Time. Nick of Time. About Time, Nick of Time. Really good too. He was like a business guy and he had to like stop a terrorist attack in an airport. I watched it on TV. It was awesome. I'm gonna look it up. So what are we thinking for scores then?
Oh God, this is tough. Again, I have a lot of fond memories of older films.
I have it in my mind. I think the only score I can possibly give for him is being good and being bad. He gets a 5.
All right, just right down the middle.
Pretty much. He had such a solid beginning, young life with such independent, unique movies. Like Edward Scissorhands is such a unique movie. I love it. And and then Fear and Loathing, all those different movies that he was in when he was younger, to, you know, big box office hits like Pirates, and then just off the goddamn cliff afterwards.
And then Sherlock Gnomes.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you get offered the role in Sherlock Gnomes, you just can't turn that down. So 5. That's mine. 5.
All right, 5. Okay.
Oh God, this is kind of tough. Like I said, I do have some positive memories from his older films, but I don't know if that's enough to really. I can't really lean on that nostalgia, given what we know now of him and his roles. I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 4.5.
Yikes! That's so harsh.
It is.
I know.
And yet I'm leaning towards that myself. The problem I have is, as you guys have kind of mentioned, it is really cool seeing the range he's had in different roles, but at a certain point, as those roles continued and they were no longer good, the question I started asking myself is, are these quirky roles that he's really inhabiting the actors of, or is he just a weird dude and that's what comes through and he's not acting at all?
I kind of wondered that too, and like I felt like after Pirates, it was just a variation of Jack Sparrow. Like, every single role was just slightly different. It's like, okay, well, maybe he's not drunk, but he's slightly off in some other way. And it just didn't feel very authentic to me. I don't know.
I don't think he's just weird, but I will agree that he goes to this like one well of strangeness, and there's not a lot of variation between it when he does it. But I watch him in serious roles, like he's nothing like that.
Yeah. He has chops.
Go back and watch Willy Wonka, or the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. His Willy Wonka character. If you watch it again, it's like, oh yeah, this is just Jack Sparrow with a little bit higher pitched voice. Pretty much.
So okay, I also I have a question. Do you think that working with Tim Burton so much as he did almost like groomed him into a particular kind of acting style based on that man's directing?
Yeah, definitely.
Is it entirely Johnny Depp's fault?
Yeah. And maybe he's just a guy who didn't even want all this fame, and when Pirates got huge, he just didn't know what to do with all of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But nick of time. Go ahead.
I also don't want
to. I've never even heard of this.
I don't want to punish him too much for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, because I actually do think he's good in that movie. It's just that the movie should never have been made in the first place. But that's not really on him, but I'm still a little bitter.
Heavy metal Oompa Loompas.
I would love to toss him in a wing of the Hall of Fame. We haven't done it yet, but I'm not going to do it just out of spite, so I'm going to give him a 5.5. And I know Sean's probably going to be the highest of the four of us, so I don't think he's going in there. But I got to do it. I'm not going to game the system. That's what his score is.
But the problem is I might always be the highest of the four. Oh, that might not be true. I don't think it was the highest on like Colbert.
I don't remember how that came out, but you were not the highest, no.
Check tape.
But I will be here. Because he's gone so downhill, and you hear. It used to be you hear he's in a movie and you're like, wow, I'm actually interested to go see that movie. And now I hear it and it's like I'm indifferent, if not a little bit turned off by it.
Yep.
And it's amazing. If you look at the parallels between Johnny Depp and Tom Cruise, I think they're so similar except for one exception, and that's like Mission Impossible. And so you're like, if Johnny Depp had that one series that maybe could like save him, maybe we would have a different conversation, but he doesn't.
Instead, the one series is what drives him to madness.
Yeah,
which is Pirates.
Yeah.
I really like. I know you're talking about your score, but I actually really like the comparison between Tom Cruise and Johnny Depp, because Dave, what you were talking about with like kind of like that grace or lack thereof as he's aging is kind of interesting, because like Johnny Depp did not gracefully like age in Hollywood, but I kind of feel like Tom Cruise has like survived that somehow.
So far,
he's just as weird.
He's in his like 50s, right? If not older.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he looks like he's 36 still. Johnny Depp does not look like he's 36.
Look, I'm gonna give him credit. Whatever he's doing in that Scientology thing, it's working.
Yeah,
because he looks young.
I would still argue that they're both kind of like sexy, like certain people would find them attractive, and so it's not necessarily entirely a looks thing. Like Tom Cruise can act too.
Yeah,
Dude.
He can.
And so he's kind of been buoyed up above kind of like these other, actors who haven't really survived the test of time. I think it's a good comparison.
And I think what's interesting is it talks about the snapshot at which we do this, which we've mentioned in these past segments as well. If we had done this about Johnny Depp 5 years ago, he would be on the downward swing still, but we'd probably be a lot more willing to ignore it. Whereas Tom Cruise has probably had his down point, with couch jumping and Katie Holmes a while ago, and now he's kind of emerged from it, done good work again. So I think people's impressions are favorable.
Oh my God, we should do Tom Cruise. That needs to be.
We should.
That's an interesting one.
Upcoming.
Johnny
That's gonna be
Depp,
fun.
maybe 5-10 years from now, Johnny Depp has resurrected his career, and this score will once again be very different. And maybe we'll revisit people in this segment. Who the hell knows? But at this particular moment, I don't know if you could pick a more downward point for him.
I mean, it's the same. Robert Downey, same idea.
Yeah.
If you pick a point in the timeline, it's horrible. But I will say, I really did like him in movies that I've seen him in. Nick of Time it's great.
This is the one thing he's become an advocate for. Yeah, exactly.
He's a heartthrob. I mean, he was, but it was very prominent. And he won, 3 nominations, no wins, but to be nominated 3 times is quite an accomplishment in Hollywood. So I will say, I want to say 7.5, but I can't. I got to go 7.
So he escapes the Hall of Shame, that's for sure.
He does. He does not go in there.
Yeah.
He ends up in the Hall of Tame with a couple other folks like J.K. and Knight, which is fine. That's respectable. There's nothing wrong with the Hall of Tame. It just means that you weren't good enough to get into the one part of the segment that actually matters, but that's not the end of the world.
And you know what? I think he deserves to be in that spot right now.
Maybe J.K. can give him some pointers on how to play a better Grindelwald later.
It has no clue.
I know.
No.
Honest to God, it makes me wonder if she wrote the first Harry Potter books. She co-wrote the screenplay for this new movie. Dave,
I was going to ask because I didn't know.
It is nonsensical gibberish. Nothing makes sense. You don't know what's at stake. You don't know what anyone is doing.
I'm convinced that J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter as a lightning in the bottle moment, and then it's God himself, herself, itself, enacted it's whatever on J.K. Rowling for 8 years, and it was I leave you.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was ever proven. Think of all those Christians who are denouncing that book because of witchcraft. I'm my bad.
No.
Okay, maybe it was Satan instead.
Oh God.
Who knows?
But it's just one where it's so bad, and everything about it is bad, and then they play fast and loose with the canon and the rules as well, on top of everything else. Why? And the directing is not very good. Half the time you can't tell what's happening on the screen. So you don't know what's happening. You don't know why it's happening. Why am I here?
I want to see this movie. I don't want to pay to see it,
well,
but
no.
I want to see this train wreck because it sounds fascinating in an awful way.
The main character is still, I will say, somewhat charming. What's his stupid face?
There you have it. What's the stupid
Teddy
face?
Redmayne.
Redmayne, yes. I knew it was something with red.
Newt Scamander.
Red 13, got it.
Anyways, so Johnny Depp, he falls. He's done.
Newt Scamander sounds like a bad Mega Man victim. I'm also kind of vamping because I don't think we have time for our second inductee, so we're just going to have to cut it off. I know we're doing this live on the air, but we don't have time.
I can vamp because you guys, this movie was so bad. I was shocked.
You probably thought going in, you heard all the criticism and you thought, well, there's no way it's that bad. There can't be that many issues. And it turns out that you just found out how bad it was.
It feels like they were recording J.K. Rowling, giving, explaining what was going to happen in the movie and, giving the exposition. Then they recorded that, and that is what the movie was. All it was characters in exposition. That's it.
I love your descriptions of how bad this is.
It's horrible.
It kind of reminds me of The Room or something. I know it's probably not that bad, but it's one of those spectacles. You're this sounds almost intentionally horrible. But it's not. It's genuinely made, and somehow it ended up being presented in this way. How does this happen?
And look, trees are living things. So I feel bad when I say that the chemistry between the main character and the main female character was the most wooden thing I have ever seen in my entire life. There was nothing there. And there was more chemistry with another woman, and I wanted him to go with her. But the audience is being told, no, you want these two.
Are we talking Twilight levels of awful romance, or like Star Wars Episode 2 episodes of bad level of bad romance?
Twilight at least had Bella and Jacob, so there was some level of a connection on screen.
We have a hashtag Team Jacob over here.
He's total Team Jacob.
I've always been a lot.
That's the right choice, by the way.
You lost.
It's the only choice.
It's the right choice.
You lost, but he wins.
You know, there's some women who write prison letters to that like wrestler who like killed his whole family. They write like love letters to him, being like, "No one understands you. I still love you." Those are the type of women who like Bella and Edward.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyone who's like, I think love is like still a good thing that we should fight for. It's Bella and Jacob.
So, what you were saying about this romance being awful, that's indication unto itself that J.K. Rowling wrote this.
Yeah, right?
That's fair.
You cannot write romance.
Having other characters that are better suited for each other and then pairing them with the wrong ones.
Pushing them apart from those, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of her
God
thing.
damn, Michelle. God damn.
You
That was a good burn.
You had a flashback that might be, on one hand, you don't care, but on the other, it's like some of the most sincere shit in the whole movie. But it doesn't last very long, and it also, like, you're like, why was that in here? It really meant nothing. It only meant what it was supposed to mean by shoving it in there. Does that make sense? Because, like, they shove it in there, and then they shove it in at the end, and it's like, look, we have a thing. You're like, no, you just forced all of that.
We laid the groundwork for it. It's like, no, you didn't.
No.
So let me ask you this, just out of curiosity. Obviously, the bulk of why you were upset with J.K. Rowling's score for this segment was because of Harry Potter itself. Do you have any fewer regrets about it now that this has happened, or is it still kind of the same principle?
No, I still stand by my score. I still think she deserves it because of those accomplishments. But, man, this movie was so bad.
I think we got to change it that Satan has to be put in the Hall of Fame, because clearly he's the one that wrote Harry Potter.
That's true. Dude,
Maybe.
there's a sequence at the end where they have another flashback scene. And then basically they're like, no, this is actually what happened. Another flashback scene that contradicts the one that you just watched.
This feels like Inception almost at that point.
Yeah, but
but bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like totally nonsensical. And then it ends. The ending is kind of cool. Basically, the ending, it's very Hitler-esque in like an actually sort of compelling way where it's like, well, yeah, I meant it Hitler-esque.
Me and Michelle are both,
Yeah, like a man who is taking advantage of people's fears on like a public forum to convince them to like join his cause and to say like, be afraid of those who aren't us. I'm not doing this out of hatred, even though he is. This is for the greater good. And like join me, and like that was like, okay, this is finally getting interesting, but you didn't earn it, and it doesn't save the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I also feel like that kind of villain is everywhere now, and I think it sounds really weird. I mean, this is super controversial, but it almost like normalizes the fascist, like neo-Nazi kind of movement by putting them in. I know they're portrayed as bad. But like every villain in these movies now, it has like Nazi imagery, same kind of coloration. It's very strange. They're just really prevalent, and I'm like, it feels kind of lazy to me. It's like
it's
I don't
easy.
know.
Yeah, exactly. It's
easy
to pick on that. Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have said Hitler. Although when you see it, you probably never will. But when you read about it, I mean, the parallels are definitely there. A powerful person is manipulating people that listen to him. And, like, the end of the movie is a big speech.
Yeah.
And he's like, join me as we... And in avoiding World War II, there's like a premonition about, like, this is where the Muggles are taking us. So we have to... Which was kind of cool. There was some cool stuff at the end, but you're like, I had to sit through 2 hours of the most boring shit I've ever seen in my whole life.
And now it won't pay off till the next one.
If it does. If they cut down this movie to where that happened in like the first third of it, and then we got and the plot was actually moving, it could have been cool. But
did you like the first one, the first Fantastic Beasts?
I thought it was okay at best.
I mean, I actually quite liked it. I thought it was charming, and I like Ezra Miller, so I was like,
yeah,
whatever.
He was in it.
Yeah.
I want to find my identity.
Ringing endorsement there.
Is his only dialogue of the whole movie. Restated a few times, like differently, But yeah, he was not a character.
That's disappointing. I mean,
and they retroactively make him Dumbledore's brother. That's the big twist.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense.
No, it sure doesn't. I will say it could be just the villain manipulating. But if that's the case, I think that there was a better way to do it. And it might not be. It might be J.K. Rowling is just completely gone off the deep end. Remember this awesome, solid canon I wrote? I want to go back and like destroy it.
Just butcher it.
Chip it off.
Well,
keep
she
chipping.
does that constantly anyway, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, in and out of film.
Well, then it bugged me when they were like, you were like brothers to Dumbledore, and he was like, more than brothers. And then silent. Yeah, that was it. And I was expecting
what does that mean?
More than brothers, we were lovers would have been, a
Yeah.
nice way to address that. They were showing like holding hands. Oh, thank you so much. They were showing like holding hands at one point, and kind of though. It was nothing that was like these characters are for sure
Dumbledore and Grindelwald?
gay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least there was that.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing.
It's
But
something.
I wanted it to be like we were lovers. I am in love with him. We had a tryst, or it was more than a tryst, but like now we're on the opposite side. Like that would have been cool. They didn't do that.
Even just saying partners, that could have left a little bit of like maybe some ambiguity for the staunch person who's like, that can't be true, which is dumb. But...
It was more than brothers.
More than brothers. That's so stupid.
So it was incest then? Is that what that line says?
That's where my head went.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, ooh.
That's not what I want. That's not my kind of anime.
And they did like some kind of blood oath thing that isn't explained until the very end when it should have been explained a lot earlier. It was just a train wreck. I couldn't believe what I was watching, that is a Harry Potter film, and it got greenlit with this quality. It's like I feel like they ran out of time, and they're like, well, we have to release something.
That's possible.
Also, last thing, Crimes of Grindelwald.
God.
Grindelwald is actually how they pronounce it, so I will do it the right way.
Well, also Voldemort is apparently how you pronounce his name. So
Voldemort.
whatever. Who fucking knows?
Crimes of Grindelwald, not a good title.
What
That has
crimes?
nothing to
We
do
know?
with his crimes at all. They don't even mention it. He escapes prison in the first 2 minutes. Doesn't commit another crime. Has a rally. They should have named it the Rally of Grindelwald.
Oh God, it sounds awful too.
No, it's better if it's a misnomer, I think.
Yeah.
But I was like bothered. I was like, I turn and I'm like, at the end, so what was the crime or crime? Name me even one crime. Also, a lot of dead kids.
You already had your last one.
Sorry, there were a lot of dead kids, though. For a Harry Potter movie, I thought it was weird. I didn't mind it. Mike would have loved it.
Well, no. Let's talk about that for a second, because the last book/movie, lots of dead kids.
Yeah, this one, they straight up murder a child who they just murdered his parents. And then they show a baby drowning.
What?
Yeah, so...
Seems fine.
It's art, though.
Lots of dead kids.
Edgy.
The whole series started out with an evil guy trying to kill a baby, so it's kind of full circle at that point.
Yeah, but Dave, that baby didn't die. I want to point out.
On-screen drowning by one of the worst methods imaginable.
It took 9 movies to get there when that baby died. Great.
Thank God.
Cool.
I'm glad we went on this journey together. I was going to ask Michelle for her 20-second comment on Tumblr taking off all of its porn, but we don't have time anymore. The dead kids took up that time.
Presenting nipples.
Yes.
It did?
Yeah, we're witnessing the end of Tumblr this week because they're just going to take off everything that's like adult content, which is all Tumblr. So good luck.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually gets hits.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
so bye.
Bye, Tumblr.
Yeah. All right,
Literally, bye-bye.
Yeah. So that's the end of this particular episode of the Team Objection podcast, sponsored by Nick of Time. Tune in between episodes to our website, objectionnetwork.com. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Team Objection. It's objectionnetwork@gmail.com for the email address. And finally, the last spot goes to youtube.com/Objection Network, because that's actually active and functioning, where we have new videos 7 days a week for you. See you next time.
Nick of Time, Johnny Depp, Samuel L. Jackson. Check it out.